Monday, and welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. As if the faltering economy weren't enough, as if the multiple crises on the southern border weren't enough, as if the massive, unaccountable, childlike spending spree weren't enough proof. The embarrassing, calamitous, outright disgraceful pullout of Afghanistan has confirmed something that never-Trumpers, socialist voters, and the biased press have been trying to hide for over a year now: the incompetence of Joe Biden and all who are acting in his name. Another Saigon confirms America is run by a boob who's run by know-nothings. That's the sobering truth we confront in tonight's preamble. Afghanistan has fallen to the Taliban terrorists again. It took Biden 2 weeks to destroy what the American taxpayers and our troops built in 21 years. All of the deaths, all of the sacrifice, the trillions of dollars wasted. Now Afghanistan will once again be a safe haven where terrorists can train and launch attacks against the West and the United States, just like they did on 9/11. And speaking of 9/11, many Americans had flashbacks of our citizens leaping to their deaths out of tall buildings in New York as they watched desperate Afghans who clinged to the outside of American transport aircraft plummet to their death thousands of feet in the air. They would risk the certain death of clinging to the outside of an American jet rather than face the brutal death that awaited them at the hands of a terrorist Taliban. Now, many of us thought we'd never meet anyone as vapid, vacuous, and completely moronic as Joe Biden when it came to foreign policy. Well, it seems we were wrong. Biden has surrounded himself with graduates of the Joe Biden School of Foreign Policy. Some of the most inept and incompetent buffoons now advise the occupier of the Oval Office. But it is our sincere belief that these people are not merely giving suggestions to Joe Biden because of Biden's advanced loss of cognitive ability. It is my belief that these millennials who were raised in the government-run schools to hate America are now crafting and implementing America's disastrous foreigners-first domestic and foreign policy. According to Team Biden and their enablers in the press, what we're seeing unfold in Afghanistan is all part of the plan. And everything Biden can't get away with claiming is perfectly normal, he's trying to blame on the 45th president, Donald Trump. Upon hearing this, most Americans gave a collective eye roll, finding the claim absurd on its face, like Trump's plan on the U.S. border. According to Team Trump, Biden threw away Trump's plan on Afghanistan, too, trusting the aforementioned know-nothing millennials to craft our deranged exit out of Afghanistan instead. But the absurdity of blaming Trump didn't stop Biden and some in the press from trying to blame Trump for another colossal Biden screw-up. Here's Fox News Sunday's Chris Wallace adopting the Biden administration's talking points to ask truly outlandish and juvenile questions of Trump's former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo.
Critics say that for the U.S. to cut a deal with the Taliban without the Afghan government even in the room was hugely demoralizing and led inevitably to where we are today. I just want to ask you one more question about your record, though, sir. You were the first American Secretary of State to ever meet with the Taliban, and you talked about how they had agreed to join us in the fight against terrorism. Here you are, sir. Do you regret giving the Taliban that legitimacy? Do you regret pressing the Afghan government to release 5,000 prisoners, which they did, some of whom are now back on the battlefield fighting with the Taliban?
Okay. Let me break down what Chris Wallace just did. In an effort to claim his question was formulated from Trump critics and not his own personal disdain for anything Donald Trump, Mr. Wallace said, Mr. Pompeo, you and President Trump have said the sky is blue, but your critics contend that the sky is red. And I, Chris Wallace, the face of Fox News, in an effort to feign journalistic integrity, will adopt the absurd premise that the sky is red in an effort to shift accountability from the lovable nitwit Joe Biden and place blame where I think it belongs, on President Trump. Forgive those of us who are sane, Mr. Wallace, but I don't think it's right to abandon reality in an effort to protect an administration that's clearly deserving of blame. We here on the Chris Salcedo Show don't believe that Democrats are destined to rule over us. They are not entitled to be congratulated when they didn't earn it, and they shouldn't escape blame and have it diverted to others when they deserve it. But not every media outlet was trying to shift blame to President Trump. Proving a stopped watch is right twice a day, CNN's Jake Tapper confronted Biden's feckless Secretary of State with a big dose of reality.
President Obama's former ambassador to Afghanistan, Ryan Crocker, he called the way this was done, quote, a handover to the Taliban, and, quote, we have hung them out to dry about the Afghan people. Crocker continued, quote, I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief, to have read this so wrong, or even worse, to have understood what was likely to happen and not care, unquote. Does President Biden not bear the blame for this disastrous exit from Afghanistan?
But Tapper wasn't done here. Mr. Tapper put the proper historical context in what we're seeing, what we're all witnessing. The Vietnam War started and escalated under Democrat presidents, but Nixon, a Republican, pulled out, culminating with the fall of Saigon. In Afghanistan, a war started by Bush, a Republican. Biden, too, is getting out in the most irresponsible and deadly manner.
But with this troop surge to airlift Americans out of Afghanistan, aren't we already in the midst of a Saigon moment?
No, we're not. Remember, this is not Saigon.
Which means, yes, it is. This is just like Saigon, because we all know that if a socialist's lips are moving, they're lying. It's one thing when leftists lie to set a political narrative, trample on our rights, or try to escape culpability under the law. But this is the definition of life and death. Political spin only undermines faith and credibility in those like Blinken who are peeing on your feet and telling you it's raining. Oh, by the way, note to Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace. If CNN can ask hard-hitting questions of a Democrat that are based on reality and not political wishful thinking, and you can't, you're doing it wrong. Who'd have thought we'd see a day when CNN had more credibility than the face of Fox News, Chris Wallace? But that's the world we're living in. Liberals claim they don't have to follow the law, whether it be on the border, Antifa, BLM riots, or prohibitions on mask and vaccine mandates. And because biased members of the press are playing for the Socialist Democrat team and not Team America, we're being told that anything bad that happens as a result of left-wing policies is actually the fault of an administration who hasn't been in power nearly 8 months. The sad thing is we don't live in a fantasy world. Biden's Saigon moment will have lasting repercussions. Not only will it have a demoralizing impact on our people and military for years to come. Consider this. The terrorist Taliban has been freeing al-Qaeda prisoners as it reconquers Afghanistan. Soon, Afghanistan will become a net exporter of radicalized Islamic fundamentalist terrorism again. Currently, our southern border is wide open, thank you, Mr. Biden. Currently, our allies are warning that terrorists are infiltrating America using the chaos at our border as cover. How long will it be before Afghanistan's Taliban sends terrorists to enter the United States, taking advantage of Biden's open borders and killing our people once again as they did on 9/11? We may all come to regret Biden the boob and his Saigon moment.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.